Mateo was a street vendor, selling fish balls and banana Q to earn enough money to survive each day. His hands were rough, scarred from years of working with hot oil and heavy baskets. His clothes were always simple, often faded, but clean. Despite the exhaustion that came with long hours under the sun, there was one thing that never left him. His voice. Every time business was slow, or when the day felt too heavy, Mateo would sing. He sang softly while preparing his cart, he sang while waiting for customers, and sometimes he sang loudly enough for passers-by to stop and listen. Music had been part of Mateo's life since childhood. His mother used to sing old Filipino ballads while cooking, and his father loved classic love songs played on a battered radio. When his parents passed away years apart, music became the only way Mateo knew how to remember them. He never had formal training, never held a microphone, and never stood on a real stage. His audience had always been strangers, children walking home from school, tired workers, and the occasional tourist who dropped a coin into his tip jar. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned orange, a woman stopped by his cart. She listened quietly as Mateo sang a song filled with longing and hope. When he finished, she clapped and asked him why he was not on television. Mateo laughed, thinking it was a joke. She introduced herself as a talent scout who had been traveling through provinces looking for raw, undiscovered talent. She asked if he had ever heard of Got Talent. Mateo nodded, but the idea of standing in front of judges felt impossible. Still, something inside him stirred. A feeling he had not felt in years. Hope. Days later, with borrowed money and encouragement from neighbors, Mateo traveled to the audition city. He carried a small bag with his clothes, his worn-out shoes, and a heart full of fear. The audition hall was overwhelming. Hundreds of people were there, dressed in bright outfits, warming up their voices, stretching, laughing nervously. Mateo stood in a corner, silent, feeling out of place. His hands shook as he held his audition number. He nearly walked away twice, convinced he did not belong. When his number was called, his legs felt heavy as he stepped onto the stage. The lights were blinding, the judges' table intimidating. The audience was quiet, curious. One judge asked his name and what he did for a living. When Mateo said he was a street vendor, selling snacks to survive, the judges leaned forward. Another judge asked why he decided to audition. Mateo swallowed hard and said he was there because singing was the only thing that made him feel alive, and because he wanted a better future, not just for himself, but to honor his parents' memory. The judges nodded politely, unsure of what to expect. Mateo closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The first note hung in the air like magic. Within seconds, the room changed. The judge's expressions shifted from polite curiosity to shock. His voice was rich, emotional, and incredibly powerful, filled with pain, love, and sincerity. It did not sound trained, but it sounded real. Every word felt lived. The audience sat frozen, some covering their mouths, others already wiping tears from their eyes. As Mateo continued, memories flooded his mind. Long nights alone, days of hunger, the laughter of children who listened to him sing, and the faces of his parents. His voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from truth. One judge placed a hand over their heart. Another shook their head in disbelief. The toughest judge, known for brutal honesty, leaned back, eyes wide, whispering something under their breath. When the song ended, there was a moment of silence. Then the entire auditorium erupted. A standing ovation thundered through the hall. People screamed, clapped, cried. Mateo stood still, overwhelmed, not fully understanding what was happening. His eyes filled with. One judge spoke first, saying they had heard thousands of singers, but very few who could make them feel something so deeply in just one song. Another judge praised his authenticity, saying that his voice carried the story of his life, and that was something no amount of training could teach. Then the toughest judge spoke, admitting they had not expected much, but what they heard was unforgettable. They said Mateo did not just sing the song, he became the song. Mateo nodded, tears streaming down his face. He tried to thank them, but his voice broke. The crowd continued cheering. Then something unexpected happened. One judge stood up and walked toward the golden buzzer. The audience gasped. Mateo looked confused, unsure what it meant. The judge spoke about how talent like this deserved to be seen by the world, how stories like Mateo's reminded everyone why this show existed. They said that sometimes, greatness comes from the most unexpected places, from people who have nothing but a dream and a voice. And then the judge pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded from above, raining down like a miracle. The crowd screamed louder than ever. Mateo dropped to his knees, covering his face, completely overcome. He cried openly, shaking, as the judges walked onto the stage to hug him. The audience chanted his name. In that moment, a poor street vendor was no longer invisible. He was a star. Backstage, Mateo struggled to catch his breath. He kept saying he did not believe it was real. Producers handed him water, crew members congratulated him, and strangers hugged him like family. For the first time in his life, Mateo felt seen. Not pitied, not ignored, but celebrated. As the show aired, the response was overwhelming. His audition went viral within hours. Millions of people around the world shared the video. Comments flooded in, calling him an angel, a miracle, a reminder of humanity. People from different countries wrote about how his story inspired them to keep going. Donations poured in, offers for training, recording deals, and support he never imagined. Back home, his town gathered around small televisions to watch his performance. Neighbors cried with pride. Children who used to listen to him sing on the street jumped with joy. His old food cart became a symbol of hope. People placed flowers and notes on it, thanking him for proving that dreams could survive even in the hardest conditions. Mateo returned home briefly before the live shows. He hugged his neighbors, cried at his parents' graves, and promised he would do his best. He did not forget where he came from. He said he would always be a vendor at heart, someone who knew the value of hard work and humility. As the competition continued, Mateo faced challenges. Training was intense, the pressure enormous. Doubts crept in late at night. But every time he stepped on stage, he remembered the streets, the cart, the songs sung to survive. His performances were never perfect, but they were always honest. And that honesty connected with people in a way few contestants ever could. Judges continued to praise his growth, his courage, and his emotional delivery. The audience supported him fiercely. Win or lose, Mateo had already changed his life. He had proven that talent does not care about wealth, status, or background. It only cares about truth. The golden buzzer moment became one of the most emotional in Got Talent history. It reminded the world that behind every poor vendor, every unnoticed worker, there might be a voice waiting to be heard, a story waiting to be told. And so, this is not just the story of a man who shocked judges. This is the story of resilience, of music as survival, and of dreams that refuse to die. It is a reminder that sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one song, and one chance to change everything. If this story moved you, remember that miracles do not always look grand at first. Sometimes, they stand quietly on the side of the road, Sinji.